The sun rises over the banks of the great river, casting a golden light across the carefully planned streets of Mohenjo-daro. In a modest brick house near the citadel, a family begins to stir as the first rays of dawn creep through the small windows. This is the story of how people of the Indus Valley civilizations started their day with food, a ritual that connected them to the earth and to each other. Imagine it's around 2500 BCE. A woman named Amara wakes before everyone else in her home, just as she always does. Life in this thriving city follows rhythms that have been set for generations. She gets up from her sleeping mat and walks to the small courtyard at the center of her house, where the morning air is cool and fresh. Her first task is to prepare the morning meal for her family. The people of the Indus Valley had developed incredibly sophisticated farming practices over centuries. They learned to cultivate barley and wheat, which became the foundation of their diet. Amara keeps her grain stored in large ceramic jars in a corner of the courtyard, sealed tightly to protect it from moisture and pests. She reaches into one of these jars and pulls out a handful of barley grains, feeling their familiar weight in her palm. These grains were harvested from the fields just outside the city walls, where farmers worked the fertile floodplains of the Indus River. She places the barley into a flat stone mortar and begins to grind it with a heavy pestle. The rhythmic sound of stone on stone is one of the most common morning sounds in the city. As she works, she probably thinks about how her own mother taught her this skill, and how she one day teach her own daughter. Grinding the grain is hard work, and it takes time to reduce the barley to a coarse flour. They didn't have the fine milling techniques we have today, so their flour was more textured, giving their food a hearty, substantial quality. While she grinds the grain, her husband, Vikram, goes to fetch water from the community well. The Indus Valley civilization was famous for its advanced urban planning, and their cities had amazing water management systems. Wells were strategically placed throughout neighborhoods, and some homes even had private wells. The water was clean and plentiful, a precious resource that made life in these cities possible even during the dry seasons. When Vikram returns with the water, Amara is ready to start cooking. The Indus people used clay ovens and open hearths, burning wood and dried dung for fuel. As the fire crackles to life, Amara places a flat clay griddle over the flames to heat up. She mixes the ground barley flour with water, adding a pinch of salt that was traded from coastal areas. Salt was a valuable commodity, and its presence in their morning meal wasn't something they took for granted. She kneads the mixture into a dough, her hands moving with practiced efficiency. The dough is then divided into small portions and flattened into round cakes, a bit like the flatbreads we know today. As the griddle heats, Amara places the barley cakes on its surface. They start to cook with a pleasant sizzle, and soon the aroma of toasting grain fills the courtyard. This smell would have been common throughout the entire city each morning, a communal experience that connected neighbors even as they cooked in their own homes. But their morning meal was more than just barley bread. The Indus Valley people had access to a wide variety of foods that added nutrition and flavor. Amara goes to check on the lentils that have been soaking overnight in a clay pot. Lentils, peas, and other pulses were staple foods, providing essential protein. She drains the lentils and puts them in a cooking pot with fresh water, setting them on a smaller fire to simmer. The family also had access to dairy products. The Indus people had domesticated cattle, water, buffalo, sheep, and goats. Amara gets a small clay vessel containing yogurt that she made the day before. The process of making yogurt had been discovered generations ago, and it was valued for both its taste and its ability to be stored longer than fresh milk. This creamy, slightly tangy yogurt would be a refreshing side to the warm flatbread. From a basket hanging on the wall, Amara takes out some dates that were bought from traders. The Indus Valley civilization was connected to a vast trade network that stretched all the way from Mesopotamia to Central Asia. Dried fruits like dates provided natural sweetness and were a special treat for the morning meal. She also has a small quantity of sesame seeds, which could be sprinkled on the bread or mixed with honey for extra flavor. As the food cooks, the children of the household start to wake up. They emerge sleepy-eyed into the courtyard, drawn by the delicious smells of breakfast. The eldest son will soon leave to help his father with pottery work, while the younger kids will spend the morning learning household skills and playing in the streets with their friends. Amara checks the barley cakes, flipping them with her fingers to brown both sides evenly. The lentils are simmering nicely, becoming soft and tender. She adds some wild herbs to the lentils that she gathered from outside the city walls. These herbs grew naturally and added both flavor and medicinal properties to the food. The Indus people had a deep knowledge of plants and their uses. While some families might have had more variety depending on their wealth, the basic parts of the morning meal were similar across society. Archaeological evidence from Indus Valley sites shows that people ate wheat and barley, various pulses, rice in some areas, dates, melons, and other fruits. They consumed dairy products and meat, though meat was likely saved for special occasions rather than eaten every day. Some households might have made a porridge instead of flatbread, cooking the ground barley with water or milk until it formed a thick, nourishing gruel. This was especially common for young children and the elderly, as it was easier to digest. Amara might have made this for her youngest child, sweetening it with a little honey when they had some. The finished meal is simple but incredibly satisfying. Amara arranges the warm barley flatbreads on a large ceramic plate. The lentils are served in a bowl, their broth enriched with the herbs she added. The yogurt is placed in a smaller vessel, and the dates are set out on a woven reed mat. The family gathers in the courtyard to eat, sitting on the ground in a circle, as was their custom. They eat with their hands, since utensils were mainly for cooking, not eating. The flatbread serves as both food and an edible tool, torn into pieces and used to scoop up the lentils and yogurt. The meal is eaten slowly, with conversation flowing between family members. Vikram talks about the pottery he plans to create that day, while the children chatter about their plans. This morning meal provided the energy they needed for the demanding work of daily life in an Indus Valley city. The combination of grains, pulses, and dairy created a nutritionally balanced diet that sustained a complex urban civilization. The carbohydrates from the barley provided energy. The lentils offered protein, and the dairy added fats and more protein. The herbs and fruits contributed essential vitamins and minerals. As the family finishes their meal, Amara collects the dishes to be washed. Water from the community well is used to clean them, and the wastewater is directed through the sophisticated drainage system that runs beneath the city's streets. This attention to sanitation and hygiene was one of the most remarkable features of Indus Valley urban planning. The morning meal was more than just sustenance. It was a moment of family unity before the day's work began. It connected the people to their agricultural heritage, to the seasonal cycles of planting and harvesting, and to the broader trade networks that brought exotic foods to their city. It was a daily reminder of the civilization they had built together, one that valued planning, cooperation, and sharing resources. As Amara cleans up, she saves some cooked lentils and a piece of flatbread for later in the day. The evening meal would be more substantial, but it was common to eat small amounts throughout the day, especially for those doing physical labor. The remaining barley flour is stored carefully for the next day's cooking. The sun is now fully risen, and the city of Mohenjo-daro is alive with activity. From her courtyard, Amara can hear the sounds of merchants setting up their stalls in the marketplace, artisans beginning their work, and children playing in the streets. The morning meal has been prepared and eaten, and life in the Indus Valley civilization continues its timeless rhythm. This is how people of the Indus Valley started their day every morning for over 1,000 years. Their morning meals reflected their incredible achievements in agriculture, animal domestication, trade, and urban planning. Though their civilization would eventually decline and disappear, the basic foods they ate and the patterns they established would influence South Asian cuisine for millennia to come. The morning meal of the Indus Valley people was a foundation stone of their culture, a daily practice that sustained them as they built one of the ancient world's most sophisticated civilizations.